So good morning, Michelle. Thanks so much for taking the time out to get involved in our Business Owner Spotlight. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Michelle Connor and I am CEO of Kinva. So Kinva is a software platform that basically connects clients with coaches, therapists, PTs, OTs, speech therapists, you name it. So it provides a platform for that sort of holistic and whole person life care.
Cool. And how long have you been involved with Kinva then?
It's just coming 2 years now, since we first had the idea right to this point, really.
Fantastic. And so who would be your ideal customer? Or who would you pitch your product at ideally?
Yeah, so it's quite a vast array of professionals, really. So as I said, we work with a lot of coaching professionals, and we work with the bulk of our client base at the minute are in therapeutics. So they would be along, physiotherapists and occupational therapists and also holistic professionals as well. So it tends to be anybody who wants that sort of more personalized connection with their clients, people who are regularly providing sort of input to their clients and providing a lot of data over to them, and it provides them with that really secure way of doing that. And it's all there in one place then for the client on their device.
Fantastic. And so you guys are going through 2 years.
Yeah.
Did COVID have any impact on your journey, or was it a catalyst for it? Or
it was probably a catalyst, actually. Yeah. It really boosted and made people way more conscious of trying to have that sort of secure connection when they couldn't meet face to face. So, and it really arose out of our own personal experience. So my daughter's very disabled, has a really, really rare genetic syndrome. So we were constantly working with therapists and even with people, on a personal level, like lifestyle coaches and nutritionists and all those types of people. And all of a sudden they weren't accessible. So we always had issues around getting the best help that we could get because they might be in other countries. So there was always that issue anyway. And then when COVID came and everything got locked down, my daughter and we were basically cut off from all of that provision that we had previously had. And then that's had a massive impact on healthcare waiting lists. And now it's just so difficult to actually get any kind of access to that sort of help. Yeah. So from that point of view, COVID really, really boosted our business and made professionals, I think, a lot more aware of the need for having a backup or having some kind of other system there so that they could maintain their business. Yeah. It was a good thing for us in that regard. Yeah.
So just from my understanding of it, so your clients would be the people providing the service.
Yes.
But if I'm then a user, is it like a marketplace for me to go and find all of that service in one place?
That will come further down the line. At this stage, it's really just about the professionals having that connection with their existing client base, to have those connections. So we are strictly B2B at this stage, but the B2C aspect was always something that we wanted because as an end user, as a patient or a client ourselves, it was about being able to find those people when you needed them and to find the right person to work with. So at this point in time, yes, it's that professional side that we're selling into, but it will move into that B2C sector as well. Yeah.
I think it's exciting stuff, and I can really see how that would be very valuable. So what have you learned about yourself then since you became a business owner?
I don't know. I think you learn an awful lot about yourself. I think probably you learn how much you need to change and how flexible you need to be. And certainly in terms of understanding how resilient you need to be and building that sort of toughness and sort of that thick skin that you need to have. Yeah. Especially when you're in this kind of world where you're trying to raise finance and investment and build clients all at the same time, you do need to be very, very robust. I've learned that to be really, really enthusiastic and to love what you do is the thing that actually sells your business. Yeah. And I'm very conscious of that. I mean, because of our personal experience, I know that is a big, big aspect of why we love what we do. So I've learned that about myself as well, because I used to work in the public sector, and I probably didn't have the same enthusiasm that I have for this. So yeah, and I think as well, just being able to push yourself out of your comfort zone, to go on and have meetings like this, and to do networking, and to force yourself to do those things, especially at the start when they don't sit very naturally with you. And to really force yourself to do that. So yeah, I've learned. I think you're always learning whenever you're in this kind of role. You have to.
Yeah, and you touched there on selling the product and raising the finance. So you end up wearing all of the hats then in the early days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And how
I think as well, I think that's the other thing as well. There was that, especially at the start, you think you've got to understand it all yourself, and you've got to do it all yourself. And then, slowly but surely you come to realization that you can't do everything yourself, and that you learn who you can trust and who you can use to help you on the journey too. Yeah,
you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And so you've have you been able to take some of your hats off, so to speak, and get out of some of the boxes in your business, or have you still had to be across all of them?
Well, I suppose as CEO, you're always dipping in and out of everything anyway. So you still have to have a very good understanding of how everything works. But, way, way back at the start, you're trying to do your financial projections yourself. I've now handed that across to somebody way more capable than I am with that stuff. That's probably something I learned about myself. I always knew that's not the part of the business that I like particularly. So I'm happy to hand that over, but have a good understanding of it. But leave that stuff to somebody who knows. And then obviously, because we're a software business, so we've always been very, very keen to use and to get on board really, really technically skillful people who are fantastic at what they do. I have a very, very high level, I wouldn't even say understanding. I have a high level view of what they do. But we've been very fortunate to get a lot of really fantastic local developers to work with us. And we just are very much about giving people their place on the team. So happy to hand that stuff over as well, obviously.
But it takes a bit of courage to do that, doesn't it? When you say you got to have an understanding of what you need, but you don't need to have it on a granular level. But it's the difference between delegation and abdication then.
Yes, absolutely. And you kind of learn that as you go as well.
Yes, but it takes, as you say, back in the early days, it takes a wee bit of time to get that courage and that understanding that you can't do it all.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, that from the get-go with software, you've got an idea. If you're not from a technical background, you're going to have to do that. But I think even just to have the confidence to know who to work with.
Yes.
And the skill set that you need, and to kind of gather all that information as well, kind of takes a bit of time. And so all of that's a big learning curve. Yeah.
So who's been the best coach you've had, and why would you say that then?
I have never had a coach. I'm sure that's just music to your ears, Scott. Well, I think the closest thing we've kind of come to was so what happened was I left my career in order to become essentially a full-time therapist to my daughter.
Okay.
So we got her diagnosis when she was 14 months. And we spoke to lots of different people all around the world, and we ended up working with this fantastic group of experts in the States.
Okay.
And so they essentially became our coach. They took us, they trained us in what we needed to do. We had regular contact with them. We worked with a pretty big variety of specialists. They essentially became our coaches for 3 years. And they guided us through and got us focused on results, focused on what we needed to do every day. And we had a plan for every day. And because of that consistency and that coaching, my daughter now is way more functional than we ever thought she would be. It's still challenging, but she's walking, running, talking, all the things that we were told that she would never be able to do. And I put that all down to the coaching and the coaching that we got as well as parents. That helped us manage it. That's probably about when you asked that question previously in the notes, I was like, that's about the closest thing we've got, really.
It's about the best example I've ever heard. So fair play to you. And it sounds like it's paying dividends to you and your family. So fair play. That's fantastic answer to that one. Do you have any favorite quotes or sayings that you've picked up along the way that have served you well?
Yeah, I think in the past year, we've done a lot of networking, and I did a sort of a light accelerator for female founders earlier last year and the start of this year. And there was one of the mentors there always talked about having grit, grind, and grace. Okay. And I think that's just really, really, really stuck with me. I think that sums up perfectly what you need to have when you're starting a business and trying to get through it all. So yeah, that's kind of become my mantra, really.
Where you go back to. I think you need to have something to lean on, to get you through sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
So you touched on the B2C side of the business. We'll come later, but what does the future look like, and what do you see as the main sort of challenges moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think customer acquisition for software companies is always a challenge. I mean, you can't be naive about that, and you have to work very, very hard to get clients onboarded. But what my ideal would be is that we genuinely help people make those connections so that Kinva becomes what we would say is people's life care wallet, that you go onto your device, you go into your Kinva, and every professional that you work with in your life that guides you, that helps you, your PT, your nutritionist, you get an injury, you go to your physio, whatever it may be, you just end up saying to them, you put it on my Kinva, and you have Kinva there as your daily guide. So you open it up every day and it tells you what it is that you're working on today, whether it's a mindfulness task or it's a specific target that you've set with your coach or whatever it may be. But that's what we're aiming for. So we're getting the professionals onboarded there first. And then, that's the ultimate goal, is that becomes it's the go-to for people to find professionals to work with.
Fantastic. So it sounds like a fantastic idea and really exciting. I love the idea of that app. So I'd love to have it on my device. And just having it all in one place, just I think would really help with some focus as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's the big problem that we found, was that you have lots and lots of input from all these siloed people.
Yeah.
But what you need is for it all to be interconnected.
And aligned then.
Yeah, absolutely. And, email and WhatsApp, it just doesn't cut it in terms of the security these days. You'd be concerned about your data. So all of that needs to be taken care of in one trusted place. And that's what we're providing.
Brilliant. So just to finish up then, if you could go back a couple of years ago, start your business again, is there anything you would do differently?
That's a very good question. I think you always have things that you would do differently. I think probably the biggest thing is, I think I probably should have sat down and really set out a very clear plan from the get-go. I think sometimes when you're starting a business, you have this kind of high level notion.
Yes.
But in terms of how you're going to make money, the commercialization of it, how you're going to get it out to clients, a proper understanding of things like sales pipeline and all of that nitty gritty that you need to understand, that I didn't at that point.
Yes.
And I think probably it took me a few months to really start speaking to people who could help me in that regard. Yeah. So I think if I was going to go back, that's the thing that I probably would want to have done earlier in the journey, maybe about, a good few months before we really started. To have a really, really clear idea of that, rather than having just the idea for the platform and then working out the commercialization afterwards, if you know what I mean.
Yes. So just a more detailed idea of how the business would function day to day, I suppose. Yeah,
exactly. And I think probably because we're very much a tech for good business, that is always the prevailing ideology, and it's our motivation.
Yes.
But there has to be really, really solid figures and commercial business sense behind it. And so it's trying to marry those two together at the start. And I think that's where, as I said, it took a few months to really thrash that out,
Look, Michelle, I really enjoyed our conversation, and genuinely, it sounds like a fantastic and exciting product you have there. So thanks so much for taking the time to come and tell us all about it.
Thanks, Scott. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much.